What happens when the people millions admire are the same people no one wants to work with behind the scenes? How much talent does it take to excuse behavior that would get an ordinary person fired on the spot? And when the spotlight fades, what's really left behind those perfectly crafted smiles? Hollywood sells a dream built on glamour, success, and larger-than-life stars who seem untouchable. But behind the camera, away from applause and red carpets, a very different reality often exists. This isn't about a few bad days or harmless diva moments. These are patterns of toxic behavior that stretched across years, sometimes decades, repeated, normalized, and quietly protected by the industry itself. In this video, we take a closer look at 15 Hollywood stars whose real-life behavior off-camera shocked colleagues, damaged careers, and revealed an uncomfortable truth in Hollywood talent has often mattered more than basic human decency. 1. Chevy Chase comedy's cruelest legend. Long before he became a household name on Saturday Night Live and the bumbling patriarch of National Lampoon's Vacation, Chevy Chase was already building another reputation behind the scenes, one far less flattering. To the public, he was sarcastic, confident, effortlessly funny. To many of the people who worked with him, he was simply cruel. Multiple SNL cast members have described Chase as openly hostile, deliberately sabotaging sketches, insulting colleagues, and making offensive, racist remarks on set. His famous line, "I'm Chevy Chase and you're not," wasn't just a joke, it was how he treated everyone around him. Was this arrogance part of a comic persona, or did success convince him the rules no longer applied? Archetype: the genius who believes talent excuses everything. When Chase returned to host SNL in later years, his behavior reportedly became so unbearable that cast members actively avoided him. One incident involved an AIDS-related joke directed at openly gay cast member Terry Sweeney, so disturbing that producers were forced to intervene. The pattern continued decades later on Community, where racially charged comments and constant hostility created such a toxic environment that producers eventually removed him from the show. Writers quit. Crew morale collapsed. Yet for years, Chase kept getting work. Why was someone so widely disliked, repeatedly protected? Eventually, the industry stopped making excuses. Because even in Hollywood, there's a point where talent can no longer outweigh toxicity. 2. Katherine Heigl, Hollywood's ungrateful star. In the late 2000s, Katherine Heigl was everywhere. She starred on the massively popular medical drama Grey's Anatomy and broke into film with the hit comedy Knocked Up. To audiences, she appeared poised to become Hollywood's next major leading lady. Yet within just a few years, her career stalled almost completely. The turning point came when Heigl publicly criticized Knocked Up, calling the film sexist and dismissive toward women. The comments blindsided director Judd Apatow and co-star Seth Rogen, the very people who had helped elevate her to movie stardom. Soon after, she withdrew her name from Emmy consideration for Grey's Anatomy, claiming the writing that season didn't deserve an award. Was this honesty, or a public insult aimed at the writers who made her famous? Archetype: the diva who believes success entitles her to open contempt. Behind the scenes, her reputation worsened. Crew members and directors described constant complaints, script demands, wardrobe issues, and delays that drove up production costs. One film reportedly added millions to its budget just to accommodate her behavior. Assistants and crew absorbed the fallout while studios quietly took note. Offers slowed, then stopped. In Hollywood, ambition is tolerated, but publicly biting the hand that feeds you rarely is. 3. Christian Bale, the Dark Knight's darker temper. Christian Bale is widely admired for his intense dedication to his craft. His dramatic physical transformations and immersive performances have earned him critical acclaim and major awards. But that intensity has also come with a reputation many colleagues find deeply unsettling. In 2009, during the filming of Terminator Salvation, audio leaked of Bale launching into a 4-minute profanity-filled tirade at cinematographer Shane Hurlbut for accidentally stepping into his line of sight. The rant, packed with threats and insults, shocked the public. But insiders weren't surprised. Had this simply been a bad day or a glimpse into something more familiar? Archetype: the method actor, whose intensity crosses into abuse. Crew members on multiple films have described working around Bale as walking on eggshells. During American Psycho and The Machinist, his extreme physical transformations reportedly led to volatile mood swings that made collaboration difficult. The outburst had consequences for those below the line. Technicians' humiliated sets disrupted tension thick in the air. Yet Bale continued to headline major productions. The industry framed his behavior as passion. But where does commitment end and entitlement begin? 4. Edward Norton. Brilliant but impossible. Edward Norton is widely regarded as one of the most talented actors of his generation. With multiple Oscar nominations and a reputation for intelligence and intensity, he often appears as the smartest person in the room. But on many productions, that confidence reportedly turned into constant conflict. Norton's problems typically centered on control. He was known for rewriting scripts without permission, challenging directors openly, and demanding creative authority far beyond an actor's role. During American History X, his clashes with director Tony Kaye became so severe that Kaye attempted to have his own name removed from the film after Norton allegedly took control of the final edit. Was this artistic passion or an inability to collaborate? Archetype: the perfectionist who believes he knows better than everyone else. The pattern continued on The Incredible Hulk, where Norton's extensive rewrites and disputes with Marvel Studios led to his quiet replacement in future films. Crew members were caught in the middle, navigating power struggles that slowed production and poisoned morale. Studios tolerated it until they didn't. Norton's talent remained undeniable, but Hollywood eventually chose cooperation over confrontation. Because brilliance means little when no one wants to fight you on every decision. 5. Russell Crowe, a gladiator with a temper. Russell Crowe's on-screen intensity helped turn him into an Oscar-winning star. His performances radiated power, anger, and raw emotion qualities that thrilled audiences. Off-camera, however, that same intensity often became explosive. Crowe's temper made headlines in 2005 when he was arrested for throwing a telephone at a hotel concierge during an argument. But those close to the industry knew the incident wasn't isolated. On film sets, Crowe was infamous for volatile outbursts, heated confrontations, and threats that left colleagues shaken. During Gladiator, he reportedly threatened producer Branko Lustig during a dispute over compensation. Was this passion or a lack of impulse control? Archetype: toxic masculinity disguised as intensity. Crew members described an atmosphere of fear where minor disagreements could trigger rage. Assistants and staff absorbed the stress while studios framed his behavior as part of his warrior persona. Despite repeated incidents, Crowe continued to land major roles. Hollywood romanticized the anger until the cost became too visible to ignore. Because there's a fine line between playing a fighter and becoming one. 6. Lea Michele, Broadway's backstage bully. For years, Lea Michele was known to audiences as a bright, ambitious star, first on Broadway and later as the face of Glee. On screen, she projected confidence and talent. Behind the scenes, however, a very different reputation quietly followed her. That reputation became public when former Glee co-star Samantha Ware accused Michele of making the set a living hell, describing repeated microaggressions and humiliating behavior. The allegations opened the floodgates. Other cast members corroborated the claims, describing a pattern of bullying, exclusion, and intimidation. Was this simply a strong personality or power exercised without restraint? Archetype: the diva who uses status to control the room. According to multiple accounts, Michele ignored certain colleagues entirely, spoke about them as if they weren't present, and allegedly singled out black cast members for harsher treatment. Broadway performers later shared similar stories describing threats, fear, and an atmosphere where even eye contact felt risky. Crew members and junior performers paid the price while the show continued. Only after public accusations surfaced did consequences follow. The question lingered: how long had this behavior been quietly tolerated because the show was a hit? 7. Jennifer Lopez, the block she left behind. Jennifer Lopez has carefully cultivated an image of humility and relatability, Jenny from the block, the global superstar who never forgot her roots. Yet behind the scenes, former employees and collaborators describe a working environment ruled by extreme demands and rigid control. According to industry insiders, Lopez insisted on all-white dressing rooms, furniture, flowers, and decor, while reportedly refusing to speak directly to service staff. Assistants claimed employees could be dismissed for something as simple as making eye contact. Was this professionalism or dehumanization? Archetype public image as a shield for elitism. Hotel and tour staff described strict rules about when and how they were allowed to interact with her. For appearances lasting minutes, contracts allegedly demanded private jets, multiple hotel rooms, and full personal teams. The burden fell on invisible workers, hotel staff, assistants, crew, while her brand continued to thrive. Studios and promoters accepted the conditions because her name still guaranteed attention. The contrast between image and reality raised an uncomfortable question: how much behavior is excused when the brand is profitable enough? 8. Mike Myers Comedy's Hidden Tyrant. Mike Myers created some of the most beloved characters in modern comedy, from Wayne's World to Austin Powers. To audiences, his work felt playful, absurd, and joyful. Behind the scenes, however, those who worked with Myers often described a very different experience, one defined by control, ego, and tension rather than creativity. According to industry insiders, Myers developed a reputation for being rigid, cold, and deeply controlling. On Wayne's World, director Penelope Spheris later revealed ongoing conflicts, describing Myers as temperamental and unwilling to compromise. The tension escalated when Myers allegedly blocked Spheris from directing the sequel despite the film's success. Was this about protecting a vision or punishing resistance? Archetype, the perfectionist who equates control with genius. The pattern intensified on The Cat in the Hat and The Love Guru, where constant script changes, last-minute demands, and tantrums reportedly created chaos on set. Crew members described morale collapsing as schedules slipped and costs mounted. Yet studios tolerated it because Myers' characters still sold tickets. Comedy flourished, but collaboration paid the price. 9. Shia LaBeouf, troubled talent. Shia LaBeouf's transformation from Disney child star to serious actor was marked by increasing instability. Public arrests, erratic interviews, and confrontations with law enforcement gradually replaced his early image as a rising talent. Behind the scenes, colleagues began to describe behavior that went far beyond difficult. During the filming of Fury, LaBeouf's commitment to method acting reportedly crossed into alarming territory. He refused to bathe for weeks, injured himself on purpose, and made co-stars deeply uncomfortable. On later projects, including Honey Boy, his volatility reportedly became so severe that additional safety measures were put in place. Was this dedication or a warning sign? Archetype, the tortured artist enabled until collapse. The most serious consequences came when his former partner, FKA Twigs, accused him of abuse and emotional harm in a lawsuit. After the allegations became public, studios and agencies distanced themselves almost immediately. The industry had finally drawn a line, but only after years of warning signs had been ignored. 10. Marlon Brando, genius and nightmare. Marlon Brando is often credited with revolutionizing modern screen acting. His performances changed cinema forever, earning him legendary status and near-mythical respect. But behind the scenes, Brando's behavior became infamous for being disruptive, unprofessional, and deeply disrespectful to those around him. Brando routinely refused to memorize his lines, forcing productions to tape cue cards around sets or even hide them on fellow actors. During The Godfather, crew members reportedly held cards just out of frame. On Apocalypse Now, he arrived overweight, unprepared, and with his own ideas that contradicted the script, forcing director Francis Ford Coppola to redesign entire scenes. Was this creative rebellion or contempt for the craft itself? Archetype, the genius convinced the rules no longer apply. The consequences fell on crew members scrambling to adapt, schedules collapsing and budgets ballooning. Yet studios kept paying. Brando was rewarded not despite his behavior but because his name still carried power. Hollywood called it genius. Many who worked with him called it a nightmare. 11. Terry Hatcher, desperate colleagues. At the height of Desperate Housewives, Terry Hatcher helped anchor one of television's biggest hits. On magazine covers, the cast projected unity and friendship. Behind the scenes, however, tension reportedly centered around one name. According to co-stars and crew, Hatcher was described as demanding, difficult, and isolating. Nicolette Sheridan later referred to her as the meanest woman in the world during a legal deposition, a remark that echoed what many on set already felt. When the series ended, the female leads gave a joint thank you gift to the crew, conspicuously excluding Hatcher's name. Was this coincidence or a message? Archetype, the star who demands special treatment at the cost of harmony. Producers allegedly scheduled scenes to minimize interaction, while crew members described relief when filming ended. In a workplace built on collaboration, resentment replaced camaraderie, and the silence spoke volumes. 12. Bruce Willis, action hero, cold attitude. For decades, Bruce Willis was one of Hollywood's most bankable action stars. His on-screen persona was charming, sarcastic, and effortlessly cool. Off-camera, however, many collaborators described a very different experience, one marked by indifference, hostility, and disengagement. Director Kevin Smith, who worked with Willis on Cop Out, famously called the experience soul-crushing, describing Willis as uncooperative and dismissive on set. According to multiple accounts, Willis often refused to rehearse, limited his working hours, and declined to participate fully in scenes, forcing productions to work around him. Was this burnout or a belief that success placed him above the process? Archetype, the star who believes the work no longer deserves effort. Crew members bore the burden adjusting schedules and setups to accommodate his absence. Studios tolerated it for years, until even fellow stars pushed back. When Willis demanded extraordinary pay for minimal work on The Expendables, he was swiftly replaced, because eventually even Hollywood tires of indifference. 13. Julia Roberts, America's sweetheart, sour reality. Julia Roberts built a career as Hollywood's ultimate sweetheart, known for her radiant smile and undeniable charm. To audiences, she represented warmth and approachability. Behind the scenes, however, her reputation was far less glowing. During the filming of Hook, crew members reportedly nicknamed her Tinkerhell, citing lateness demands and tension that disrupted production. Director Steven Spielberg later vowed never to work with her again. On I Love Trouble, her relationship with co-star Nick Nolte deteriorated so badly that scenes were filmed separately. Was this strong personality or an inability to collaborate? Archetype, public charm, masking private difficulty. Assistants described walking on eggshells, absorbing blame and frustration. While Roberts remained a box office draw, resentment quietly followed her. The contrast between image and reality became impossible to ignore, proof that charisma on screen doesn't always translate to kindness off it. 14. Val Kilmer, talent that burned its own bridges. Val Kilmer was once considered one of the most gifted actors of his generation. His intensity, charisma, and commitment to roles made him unforgettable on screen. Off-camera, that same intensity reportedly turned sets into battlegrounds. Kilmer's conflicts with directors became legendary. During The Island of Dr. Moreau, his clashes with director John Frankenheimer were so severe that Frankenheimer later said he would never work with Kilmer again for any amount of money. Kilmer allegedly refused to communicate, insulted crew members, and made erratic demands that drained time and budgets. Was this artistic immersion or outright disregard for collaboration? Archetype, the method actor who mistakes dominance for dedication. Crew members described fear and exhaustion while studios grew wary. Kilmer's reputation eventually cost him major roles, including the Batman franchise. His career didn't collapse overnight, it burned slowly, fueled by behavior no one could manage anymore. 15. Faye Dunaway. When the performance wasn't acting, Faye Dunaway's portrayal of Joan Crawford in Mommy Dearest became iconic. Ironically, many who worked with Dunaway claimed the role required little transformation. Her off-screen behavior reportedly mirrored the tyranny she portrayed on screen. Directors and crew described Dunaway as volatile and abusive. On Chinatown, Roman Polanski famously called working with her a nightmare. One widely circulated story, denied by Dunaway, involved her throwing urine at a crew member after being denied a bathroom break. On Mommy Dearest, she allegedly demanded not to be looked at and addressed crew with open contempt. Was this diva behavior or something more disturbing? Archetype unchecked power turning into abuse. Makeup artists, assistants, and stage managers bore the brunt. Production stalled, morale collapsed, and eventually theaters fired her mid-run. Dunaway became a cautionary tale, proof that when cruelty becomes routine, even legends lose protection. These 15 stories aren't just about difficult personalities or oversized egos. Together, they reveal a pattern Hollywood has repeated for decades: a willingness to tolerate, excuse, and even reward toxic behavior as long as it comes packaged with talent and profit. Studios looked the other way. Agents managed the damage. The industry moved on while countless crew members, assistants, and collaborators quietly absorbed the cost. But this system doesn't survive on silence alone. It survives because audiences keep watching, applauding, and separating the art from the people who made it. So where should that line be drawn? How much behavior is too much, no matter how brilliant the performance? Now we want to hear from you. Do you believe talent should ever excuse cruelty? Can you truly separate the artist from the person behind the work? Share your thoughts, your reactions, and your disagreements in the comments. This conversation doesn't end here. It starts with what you have to say.